We got the whole band back, and fittingly so, because it is Echo Park Speedway weekend, and we are going to break that down for you. Of course, we're going to break down what we saw in Pocono, all those street course rumors, including one that's not really getting talked about, and we're going to tease a little bit to some drivers that we're going to hear, we've heard from here in the 5 to Go space here on this very podcast. And welcome into episode 319. All right, 319. You got an Earnhardt and an Elliott in the show numbers here. Welcome to the 5 to Go podcast. That's on GoPRN.com. It's on Apple. It's on Spotify. And not only now is it on YouTube, and you can watch the video, but now it's on its dedicated YouTube channel. It's not on my personal channel. If you search 5 to Go podcast on YouTube or type in youtube.com, then put /@5 to Go podcast, you will get just us. And really all I posted was stuff about us anyway, but you'll have it has its own thing. I would love for you to subscribe and share that around so we can kind of expand the circle a little bit. But welcome to the show, and be sure to check it out. The past episodes. My name is Doug Fireball Turnbull. I am happy to be on the announcing team at Performance Racing Network this weekend to get in my home track, our home track, Echo Park Speedway. I'll be up at Turn 2, I believe. Nick Yeoman will be up at Turn 4 from the IndyCar and IMS Radio Network. I'm looking forward to working with Nick and the whole PRN crew. And I also start a new job, helping out with traffic on 11 Live News, WXIA TV here in Atlanta and 11live.com. So it's a big week for me, as it seems like, guys, that I have job changes right around Atlanta races now. Like this is the back-to-back second races at Atlanta where I'm like my head is spinning a little bit, and we'll have that this week for sure. But welcome in. Got to introduce you to the crew, or else I'll just talk forever like last week's episode. First, he's our roving racing journo, right, Dev? He's our roving racing journo, getting ready to graduate from the University of North Georgia, our super fanalist, and he's decked out in the right swag today. Let's go, Devin Kupka. How we doing?
Oh, we're doing good. We're excited for Quaker State 400 available at Walmart weekend at Echo Park Speedway. I'm excited for it, and maybe it has, Doug, with the job changes, maybe it has to do something with Quaker State and Walmart or something like that, because it was the Quaker State 400 last year is when you did the job change as well.
That's true. I actually, both of these weeks around the races, I got arrested at a Walmart for drinking Quaker State in the aisle and not throwing my bottle away. That was the problem. So I think that's what it was. Yeah, that's totally not true. Nor did I actually drink hand sanitizer in last week's show. That was just a prop. I even put a disclaimer on the YouTube shorts that we put out there on my YouTube channel on those. Yeah, maybe that's what it is, but we'll be settling down here at 11 Live News. So happy for that. Dev, I'm looking forward to being down the track with you. Before we introduce Dan, Dev, when you were at the racetrack at Atlanta Motor Speedway, I am probably, this is as useless as I will be to the 5 to Go podcast is when I'm at Atlanta, because of the things that pull me different ways, especially Performance Racing Network. So what will you be doing to cover this for our group that they could see on Facebook and they could see on our YouTube page and all that?
Well, we'll be talking to drivers throughout the weekend, getting their thoughts on Echo Park Speedway, all of that. The in-season tournament starts this weekend, so we've got a lot of analysis about that, head-to-head matchup stuff coming up with all that stuff. So we got all that. Xfinity Series race on Friday night. So got a lot of good stuff coming y'all's way, definitely Friday, but potentially Thursday as well.
Well, later in the show, we'll go over the weekend schedule, including the drivers coming to the Raceway Ministries tent on Saturday morning of race day. But there's going to be all sorts of stuff I'm going to rip and read right off of EchoParkSpeedway.com. Now, we've given him 4 minutes extra to recover from his head cold here to start off episode 319, all right? But he is our championship-winning mechanic. He grinds those gears in Dawsonville, the master maker of speed and 2018 Georgia Racing Hall of Fame inductee. Dan Elliott, I have missed you, brother. Welcome back.
I have missed y'all, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that we're previewing Atlanta EPS and Echo Park Speedway and QS at EPS, and looking forward to it, and glad to be back because, as I told you, that's probably been one of the worst head colds I've had in 40 years. It did not want to let go.
And I hate that for you. Yeah, the fact that your last one, too, we talked in last week's episode at least a little bit about the Mexico City race, and many of the crew members and drivers at least got some sort of Montezuma's revenge or some sort of stomach sickness there. Your last really bad head cold like this was actually during a race weekend, and there were no sick notes, right?
There weren't. I had gone to the doctor before I went to Dover. This was in 1985, and went to the doctor before I went to Dover, and you get a happy shot of whatever it was at that time, probably B12 at that time.
Yeah.
And I think I got amoxicillin, and that was one of the toughest races I ever worked, because that race was it ran for the most part green all day long, and I think we did 10 four-tire pit stops.
Oh.
I was a whipped puppy by the time that race was over. And then you just can't say anymore. You were a whipped puppy.
That is, and Dover being 500 miles is crazy. Like, it's in my time of fandom of this sport since really 2001. It's always been 400 miles. I think it wasn't since the 80s that it was 500 miles. I think, right? I mean, it's 500 miles at Dover. That's just a butt whooper.
That's right, but it is love that racetrack, I do, and I loved running there, going there, and so forth. But a lot of those racetracks bring back a lot of good memories, and you just have memories of things and places and events and stuff that you don't know why you remember them over the years, but you do, and they kind of stick with you, and you don't understand how certain ones have that ability and others don't. You want to try to remember things about other tracks, but these races kind of stand out in their own right, and you just don't lose those memories, I don't think.
Well, that's for sure. And I think I remember you telling me that one of those Dover races was the most hot and brutalized you've ever been at a track, but it's still great memories there. And fitting we're talking about that because I don't know if it's the whole eastern seaboard, but certainly the southeastern U.S., I know the northeast too are just dealing with a tremendous heat wave right now, which is my favorite. I love that, but I also don't go out and cut the grass like Dan does, all right? I just go work inside of places and drive and then jump in the pool, so I love that for summer. All right, let's get racing here, 7 minutes in. Let's get racing. All right, get racing. We'll start in the near past. Pocono crowned 3 winners in NASCAR's top 3 series this weekend. You had Lane Riggs, not Corey Heim, who dominated, but Lane Riggs go to victory lane in the truck series. I think that's second win for him this season, top of my head. Then you had an up-and-coming crew chief win an Xfinity race in his debut on the pit box, and that would be none other than Ralph Dale Earnhardt Jr. All right, Dale Earnhardt Jr. takes Connor Zilisch, who got his first ever, it's not really an oval, but for all intents and purposes, oval track victory there in the Xfinity Series in the 88 car. And he went to victory lane too. So that was a big deal to see that. And I want to point out too, there was a first-time winner in the ARCA Series for the second week in a row. This time, 15-year-old Max Reeves. 15. Devin's old enough to be his dad. 15-year-old Max Reeves went to victory lane in the Joe Gibbs number 18 at Berlin Raceway, all right, in Michigan. So that was a big deal. And Tristan Lapsevich also went to victory lane the week before. This weekend was Elko Speedway in Wisconsin. Last week at Berlin, it was Tristan Lapsevich. But back-to-back first-time winners in the ARCA Menard Series there, which is also NASCAR adjacent. And I feel like just doesn't even get breathed in a lot of the racing media here that a lot of us NASCAR folks follow, including this show. I sometimes forget to do it. But then it was Sunday, the Cup race, where, as I'm sure you know by now if you're listening midweek, Chase Briscoe pilots Joe Gibbs Racing's number 19 to chase his third win of his career, his first win with JGR, and the first win for the James Small-led number 19 pit crew and team in almost 2 years, since July of 2023, which was Truex Jr.'s last victory there. So that big win for Chase Briscoe, and he did it in big-time fashion there. And I want to come to you, Devin, first about that. We saw Chase Briscoe basically make a mistake. He was very not clutch and not leaving when his crew chief, James Small, said go. He said, frankly, there was too much car noise than revving the engine, and he heard him say wait, or he heard him say go, but thought he said wait. Thought he said go, heard him say wait, and he took off. His gas man stayed plugged in there for like 1 extra second as he was getting dragged through the pit box, and Briscoe was able to retain the lead in that race. A caution by Shane Van Gisbergen helped slow things down and save Briscoe some fuel, but he basically had to save. I've heard both 9 miles and 9 laps said, and I'm wondering if any of that's true considering they play radio games with each other, but he had to save a ton of fuel, Devin, and he held off the best driver in the history of Pocono, probably, Denny Hamlin. So that just, what does this say about Chase's win, Devin, and what was the thing that stood out to you most about that race?
Well, I guess you could say about that second to last, or that last pit stop for Briscoe, is mistakes into miracles, because as he took home the win on Sunday, his first win with Joe Gibbs Racing. And I thought it was really interesting that it kind of felt more of a redemptive win for him, because how many times have we seen Chase Briscoe sit on the pole this year but not get anything remotely kind of close within the top 5 or really close to finishing the race first? Now, it is hard to win from the pole. We've seen some drivers do it before, but it just feels like it's redemptive for Chase Briscoe to get his first win in JGR, and what feels like there's going to probably be many more to come from that number 19 Toyota Camry machine.
Well, you would think, right? It's so hard to know. And Chase Briscoe kept talking about the pressure to win. He said this is a win that he didn't enjoy as much as his first two. When he started with Joe Gibbs Racing, he was a rookie. They were coming off of Kevin Harvick's 9-win season in 2020, and then SHR really in 2021. They bring in Briscoe to replace Clint Boyer. 2022, he gets his first win at Phoenix, but it's like it's early in the season. He's a rookie. You're not expecting him to win. Wins again at Darlington when that team is out to lunch in terms of they're shutting down. Get big clutch win. So he said that this one is one that he enjoyed the least out of his 3 Cup wins. All right. So Dan, I want to come to you. I'm going to ask you what your top thing in the race was after this, but I want to relate to this first. Dan, you have been up and coming scrappy underdogs starting in the late 70s and up until that breakthrough win at Riverside in 1983 with the number 9. And then you went to Titans in 1985, winning all those races. Can you relate to what Chase said from going from surprised to win to expected to win?
Doug, Devin, it's one of those things where you so build up in this that we ran second so many times that it's just a build up, and they call it what a crescendo when you build up to finally you end up in victory lane. And I think this is one of those things where yes, you finally get to victory lane, and as I told Chase after he won his first race, I said the next ones are going to come easier because there is a pressure inside a person to perform, and yes. I think that the longer you go, the more that builds, and the more you begin to. Some people can do this, some people can't, without questioning your abilities, but it's just circumstances, and we'll get into that in a minute about Pocono. But I feel like that he will, as you go forward in your career, I think what he said was at the moment, and I think he will cherish this race as others just equally as much. It's just the timing of it and the fact that there wasn't a build-up before this. And you go to events where there is media there. You have social media that you're reading, and people want to know, well, when are you going to win again? Why aren't you winning?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of out of your control to some point, but it does work on you.
He said it was a huge weight off his shoulders. I mean, he was very exuberant on the radio, and Chase Briscoe, he has so much of that just that nice guy, like you wouldn't expect him to be a race car driver. He doesn't have that alpha mentality in his normal interactions. But to see that pressure come off and to see how much he just spiked during those races. Another couple of things, too, and then I want to ask Dan what your top story was before we move on from Pocono. All right. But another thing is that when he was saving fuel, and I want to keep this with Dan just because he's worked on gears, been a mechanic and everything, what Chase actually had to slow down, Chase Briscoe had to slow down, so to speak, or use less gas in the final laps, and he started cutting faster lap times. All right, and it brought that whole phrase forward that I've heard more at Pocono, Dan, slow down to go faster. But I think it was a testament too, Dan, to maybe how much Chase Briscoe does overdrive sometimes and we don't know it. So what did you think about that phenomenon happening at a track that to me seems so momentum-based?
Well, one of the things I want to say about Pocono and how it factors in to me to all the other drivers is you really don't know until you get into Pocono, because there are two things about Pocono that I totally understand, and that is weather and fuel.
Yeah.
And fuel, whenever we first started going there, you learned this a little bit as you went through it, because the transition happened during our period in the 80s, was the fact that it used to be that you ran hard no matter how many laps you had. There wasn't anything that you consider fuel savings. You ran as hard as you could run, and if you needed fuel, you dropped in and you took whatever fuel it would take to complete the race at full throttle.
Okay. Was that because the field was so strung out you could just afford to do it? Or is it because you lacked the technology?
Doug, that was the mentality, was that you raced. There was no holding back and conserving fuel. And I don't know who started that trend of conserving fuel, but it is a trend that somebody started and a lot of people paid attention to and saw that they could win races by conserving fuel. And even though you did not have, and this was probably the reason, was you didn't have the fastest car, and you probably weren't going to win on the same playing field because you were down that race a little bit, either on horsepower or handling, or maybe a little bit of both. But you saw that you could make that advantage up if you conserve fuel. That wasn't the way it was in our era. You ran hard as you could run for as long as you could run, and you dipped in and you got fuel. However many laps were left, 10 laps left to go, whatever, you took a splash of gas and you completed the race. Nowadays, it's not the same, and a lot of the drivers that compete, it's down to the strategies, and this is how it played out to me at Pocono. Whether I like it or whether I don't, it is Pocono. And whatever strategy you elect to go with, whatever the outcome is, if you end up in victory lane, you still earned victory lane. It wasn't one of those things that you backed into. You still earned victory lane. And I see that Pocono is that way now, where to me it takes away a little bit of the grit and determination that I saw the drivers in our era. They wanted to lead every lap. They wanted to win. They wanted to do it their way, but it's not that way anymore. And strategy now plays such a role. And whether I agree with it or whether I don't, it's here to stay. And this is what you're going to have to deal with in all of the races coming. And at the end of the day, you still get the points and you're still in victory lane no matter how you won that race.
Well, no doubt. And that's the thing, is it's still, as long as you don't have an extra piece of tape under the wrap of your nose like Denny Hamlin did 3 years ago, all right, you're basically, it's the fastest car, gets the win, or the one that goes to victory lane is very deserving, and that's no dog on Chase Elliott, who was really fast in that 2022 race as well. One of 5 wins he had that year. Chase Elliott, by the way, had a good weekend there, notching another top 5 finish. I'll give you those top 10 in the standings, or the finishing results here in just a second. Well, actually, no, let's do that right now. Excuse me. Dan, some great points there about the difference in mentality. Could you imagine being Kurt Shelmerdine and telling Dale Earnhardt in 1987 to slow down, to go faster? But it did work, and that's the thing. Not only did he get Chase Briscoe the victory, it actually improved his driving craft there in the race as far as just cutting better laps. And Denny Hamlin did a whale of a job. Remember, this is his first race back, missing for his son Jameson being born. What's Denny Hamlin's real name, Devin?
Oh.
His son is named Jameson.
Is it Dennis?
Well, yes. So Denny is short for Dennis, and I didn't know this till recently. His real first name is James, and his son is named Jameson.
Didn't they use AI to name their son?
They said they didn't have a name until he was 3 days old, and they had to leave the hospital, and they're like, you can't leave without a name.
Devin, look that up and see if AI had anything to do with naming his son.
I don't think they admitted that it did anyway. But Denny Hamlin finished second. Chase Briscoe's first. Ryan Blaney, who won Pocono a year ago, he has these real uneven results, right? But he comes back to finish third in this one. Chris Buescher was one of 3 RFK racing cars to finish in the top 10. And he did a very good job there. It looked like he was mounting a charge at the end of that race, and they just ran into the air wall, so to speak, and couldn't get to Hamlin, and eventually Blaney passed him. And Chase Elliott, as I mentioned, finished 5th. How about John Hunter Nemechek? I heard the 3rd time this year that he has had consecutive top 10s for John Hunter Nemechek now, and he's climbing the point standings. He's 6th. Kyle Larson's just been there lately. But he finished 7th. Ryan Preece ended up in the 8th spot, and he was strong most of the day. And Brad Keselowski could have been a contender too, but he pitted when pit road was closed one time, which was driver error situation. And then he also had that Shane Van Gisbergen caution come out when he long pitted as well and overruled his crew chief Jeremy Bullins and stayed out. And then he got the caution. So that did not help him. But he went from 24th to 9th over those roughly 30 or so laps at the end of the race to finish 9th. And Austin Cindric finished in the 10th spot. I'm not going to do a points bubble rundown today, except to say we now have 11 different winners and what was a really tight points bubble. And now you're seeing all double-digit perforations go on to 20, 30, 50, and 60 points back. We just don't have the time today. We'll get to it another time. And what we're going to do before we get to Atlanta and before we get to what's going to replace the points bubble update, which is the in-season tournament talk, because that begins here with the TNT Max races coming up this weekend at Echo Park Speedway. By the way, I think it's still okay to say in Atlanta, at Atlanta, just like we did with Charlotte when it was Lowe's Motor Speedway. It's just when you say Atlanta Motor Speedway that you run into trouble. The biggest adjustment for me has been saying EPS instead of AMS, not saying Echo Park Speedway, but nobody cares. I just wanted to say that out loud. Before we get to the in-season tournament, the promo time, I had a unique opportunity that Echo Park Speedway presented to us to actually eat lunch and hang out with Daniel Suarez. He was in between stops on a media tour. They had to feed him something real fast. I was up the road at my previous job, and they said, hey, do you want to come down and do this? So I put a video up on our brand new 5 to Go podcast YouTube page. It's about 5 or so minutes with Daniel Suarez. All right. One of the things Suarez said was, and I didn't know, it kind of surprised me, was how Pocono was a plus for him. He felt like that was one of several places, including at Echo Park Speedway where he has one, that he felt like the number 99 team could win. Check out the full interview, including how he speaks to the non-racing media and why that's important, why NASCAR Full Speed on Netflix is important. It just seems like he gets it. And I know for a guy who, and I didn't bring up anything about silly season, but a guy who's kind of under fire, so to speak, or has a hot seat there, and he is someone who's really tuned into the sport. And by the way, how quickly do things change? A week ago, or almost a little over a week ago, he's winning the Xfinity race, Mexico City. The next week, they're talking again about is Daniel Suarez going to be in the 99 because Connor Zillage won, all right? So check that out loud. There's also short versions of that video on my YouTube page with the full interview. Later this week, we're going to have about 10 to 15 minutes or so with Noah Gragson. That interview I got to do with him a few days ago before the Pocono weekend. We're also going to have an exclusive one-on-one with Ross Chastain, and I'm going to put that out probably before the race weekend starts, but I may save it for after too. But anyway, those are going to be here on Apple, Spotify, Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and then also Devin, whatever Devin gathers at the track is going to be our Facebook page, 5 to Go Podcast Facebook. All right, now in-season tournament. Last week we heard Devin talked about on episode 318. Why no excitement about the in-season tournament? Well, it's here, and now people are, I guess, kind of warming up to it. Dan, your nephew said he was completely oblivious to the whole thing, which is kind of a normal response, frankly, that when it gets brought up with the gimmicks. But I don't know that it's worth – I mean, if you all go to NASCAR.com, they now, Devin, have a NASCAR in-season tournament bracket that's under in-season challenge at the top of the page. But I guess what we need to do, this is going to be 32 drivers that file all the way down to 2, and it's basically just who finishes better than whom in any single race. and we need to pick winners, all right? So this is just the top 32 drivers in points. I don't think their seeding really matters. It was over their best finish over the last 3 races. So, Devin, you brought it up. Who are you picking to win the in-season tournament here in 5 races?
You know, it's kind of tough because you really have to. I think you really have to look at the tracks that we have upcoming in the Cup Series schedule. So you have Echo Park Speedway, which is a complete and total wild card. I mean, you could see big upsets. You could see, for instance, a 26 seed Carson Hocevar upsets Ryan Blaney this weekend. I think that's a legitimate thing that could happen. I just think when you look at all of this, it's such a wild card, especially with EPS coming up this weekend. Then you got Chicago Street Course Race. Then you have Sonoma, Dover, and Indy. So you have 2 road courses in this mix. And then you finish it up with Sonoma and then Dover and then Indianapolis being the final round. So I think there's a lot of interesting things that could happen in here. But if I had to pick a driver, I think logically speaking, you could say, you know what, Kyle Larson's probably the most balanced driver out of all the field, and if you could count on a driver to get consistent finishes, I think it would be Kyle Larson. Now, I was thinking about this, and I didn't realize it till last night, that Shane Van Gisbergen is not in the in-season tournament. That would be the driver I would pick to potentially win this in-season tournament, given the upcoming schedule that we have. But I'm going to have to go Kyle Larson with SVG out of here.
I like that. Okay, so Kyle Larson was hit because SVG is not in it. I like those tactics there. All right, now before I get Dan's pick, let me just I want to pull the schedule up real quickly because you made me think of that, Dev. Hold on, 2025 schedule, just one moment. So let me just name these races so we're all thinking together here, all right? And this is me too, because I barely have looked past Echo Park because that's such a big thing we circled. So we've got Echo Park Speedway, Chicago Street Course, July 6th. Sonoma, so back-to-back road courses, the 13th of July. Dover Motor Speedway, July 20th. And the Brickyard 400, IMS. That'll be July 27th. And Dev's planning on being at that, too. In fact, Dev, got to do your credentials. I'm still working on that, okay?
Hey, I got the opening round of the in-season tournament and the champions round.
Yeah, well, there you go. They better crown Kyle Larson at Indy. By the way, he won Indy a year ago. So, Dan, when you hear Atlanta, Chicago, Sonoma, Dover, Indy, who do you pick in this in-season knock-em-out tournament that's just like March Madness?
You know, I'm like Devin. When you throw all this out here and you put it in a bowl and shake it up and see what pours out, you've got such a variety in this. And I'm like Devin with Larson, except for one notable thing about Larson. He is very unpredictable on the finishes, and it's not go or blow, but it's go or something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know that would be my choice, even though it is the logical of the choices, but for me, going through the list I'm looking at right here, for whatever reason, I feel like William Byron is the one that I'm going to select to go with for these races based on where I think they're at and what I think is going to take place in the next upcoming events.
All right, so Dev goes Larson, Dan goes Byron. And Byron normally, and he's been a little low-key lately, and he normally kind of dips in the summer months. But, Dan, you're seeing something in Byron that you're not seeing in Larson, okay? Yep. And you could have picked the same. That would have been fine. So this is a tough one because these are not who has the most points or who has the most wins or who gets the best finish. It could be if you have 1 week where you have a bad pit stop at the end and, Ty Dillon stays out or something, then bam. So, look, just in this week alone, and then I'll give you my pick, just in this week alone, I mean, Denny Hamlin goes against Ty Dillon, 1 versus 32. But you look at it, William Byron's an 18 seed. Carson Hocevar had a tough last few races, right, with the different wrecks and whatnot, is 26th going against Blaney, going into Atlanta. We saw Hocevar and Blaney tangle in Atlanta. I'm just looking up at some other ones. Ty Gibbs is 6th. Ty Gibbs, who were like, what happened to Ty Gibbs this whole year, is 6th. And he's against Justin Haley, who's 27th. All right, that's kind of interesting, right? Christopher Bell at a 4 versus a Stenhouse 29th at Echo Park Speedway. All right, Bell won Echo Park Speedway in the spring, by the way, but Stenhouse is usually good on tracks like this. So that's tough. But I'm going to go. We're going to make it a Hendrick 3 for 3. And I'm picking Chase Elliott because quiet consistency has been the name of his game this year. He started off this year, much like last year, a very impressive top 20 streak, which no one writes about top 20 streaks. We mentioned it here a year ago. I think he broke it at Vegas or something like that. Or no, it went from Vegas of 23 to sometime fairly late in 2024. Here he is again, top 20, top 20, top 20. Now, I say that, I might have cursed him for the turn 2 roost. I don't know. But I think Chase Elliott, if he keeps knocking out 4ths and 3rds and 5ths, it's not a points race, but I think he could do that. Now, I was going to pick Denny Hamlin before because he just seems like he's white hot, but you got these road courses in here. That's tough. So we'll go with driver number 9. So for me, Chase Elliott, Dan, William Byron, Devin, Kyle Larson. Devin, I think you had something there.
And you know what the big thing is for the fans? $1 million is on the line in this in-season bracket tournament challenge.
Wait,
for the
so
fans.
Every fan that is interested in this gets $1 million?
Oh no! If you whoever has the most points at the end of the day, at the end of the tournament, I should say.
I was about to say, I think you might have at least 2 fans interested after that. So, no, I'm interested to see what the results are, but it's going to be tough to follow, I feel like. From week to week. It's going to be – there's so many elements here, and I would love to bring it into the radio broadcast a little bit on Sunday – or Saturday, rather, on PRN, but I don't see how we're going to do that, especially with how frantic
So what they do, like similar to what they do in the playoffs, they're actually going to stripe each car a color depending on the matchup.
So there are going to be 16 different colors out there. Mm-hmm. I did not know that.
I would imagine this is going to get easier to follow as the tournament goes along. But I think it's really unique and something that's to make things interesting at this portion of the season.
Denny, and we're going to get to Atlanta here in a second. We got one more outside. You know, Denny Hamlin is going to have the King's Hawaiian car at Atlanta, I learned this week. And he said it on his podcast, Actions Detrimental. King's Hawaiian was the sponsor of Brad Keselowski at Atlanta, I think it was 2 years ago when Denny Hamlin opened the Porta-John. And Brad was in the can there after the race. And someone asked him what it smelled like. He said, it smelled like King's Hawaiian in there. So anyway, now Denny Hamlin is the King's Hawaiian driver. So I think that was an action detrimental indeed. All right, but that should be a sharp-looking car. I look forward to calling that. All right, before we get to Atlanta, there were street course rumors we discussed on episode 318. Devin brought the fire in that show. We talked a lot. I was drinking hand sanitizer, fake. I didn't actually drink it, about the rising, or well, not the rising age, but the high age of NASCAR's median demographic. Devin, or the average demographic, Devin brought out how he thinks street course racing is the key to attracting a younger fan base, or why that might be. The San Diego street course rumors, that story dropped last week, that it's not final, but they're nearing a deal. And then another tiny little story that maybe isn't meant for 2026, but it showed up on J-Ski. It was one of the local newspapers. Said that NASCAR is open in the Pocono area, 2 hours from Pocono, to racing inside the University of Pennsylvania's Franklin Field. So an Ivy League school, UPenn, NASCAR could try to build a stadium race. Now, they're just open to it. They're also open to many things, Dan. All right? But do you think, Dan, that it's important to try the stadium idea again? And also, since you were here last week, Dan, what did you think about the San Diego idea and this whole street racing thing?
You know, I like the street racing idea, I really do, but I've been more a proponent, as you well know, of the road course events over my career anyway. And I like the fact that a driver, it does make him think, because you got to turn left and turn right and brake and accelerate and all this other stuff, and it makes the driver think. So I like that instead of just the fact that you're turning left all day long. Give me some variety, even though some of the races don't turn out as well. They don't turn out as well on an oval either. So let's give me a little bit of variety, humor me a little bit, and but I think the street racing, I seem to like those. I think that the future, I think where N1 was designed and is going is more that way,
Sure.
and that's my opinion only, and I feel like they're going that way, and what better than have NASCAR won't have to own a racetrack. All you'll do is take bids from other cities, other areas, and have an event there. And just like you said, maybe the whole idea of NASCAR's wishes is that they get paid billions of dollars to compete on a street event at a city near you. So let's let the bidding begin and see where it goes, because it really is all about interest anyway, and where you're going to get the highest bids. How did the Hall of Fame get in Charlotte? It was all bidding, and it got Charlotte. So let's see if Charlotte ponies up and has a street race in Charlotte.
Yeah. Oh boy. Marcus Smith would be rolling over in his Echo Park automotive car if he if they're like, wait, I got the Roval, I got that, like, what are we doing? No, okay, but and I mean that in jest. I mean, gosh, all the love to the Smith family. I'm just like, wow. But that's a great point, and I was and we've talked about this once or twice before. I was at the rally they did at Centennial Olympic Park here, downtown Atlanta, in 2005, trying to campaign to get the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And I still have a NASCAR Hall of Fame Atlanta shirt that I don't wear. I keep it tucked away. And I got interviewed on 11 Alive about it, too, while I was working at WSB. I used a fake name because I don't know why. I was a smart aleck, I guess. But yeah, let the highest bidder win. So, Devin, okay, we talked the San Diego Street Race last week. Generally in favor of it. I'm more of, hey, let's have one of those a year. Okay, Chicago's time's up, move it to San Diego. But what? NASCAR's open to UPenn. What? The idea of building inside a stadium again, that's different than the street race idea, is bringing the race somewhere near a market, and that is 2 hours from Philly, and it's kind of near, or 2 hours from Pocono, but it's kind of near Philly, right? What are we doing there? Does that make Pocono in danger? I mean, are we actually achieving anything close to what you said as far as the Gen Z buy?
I think if you're talking about the stadium idea, until they have live
UPenn Stadium,
until you have live pit stops inside a stadium race, I don't think you'll ever see one make it onto the Cup Series regular season or even the postseason schedule. I think this stadium idea is probably more leaning towards having an exhibition race there, like the NASCAR Clash race. We see that at Bowman Gray Stadium. You don't have live pit stops there. So I would imagine that's probably more leaning towards a Clash race. Now, the problem is that's in Pennsylvania, more northern United States. That's late January, early February when you're going to be having a race there. So I think it's going to be tough for that to come to fruition. But maybe they have an exhibition race there. But if they can somehow have live pit stops inside a stadium race, it's possible. I think it's possible we see it get a point state eventually.
Yeah, well, I think.
But you also have Bristol. Think about that.
Wait, say it about Bristol again?
Well, you also have Bristol as well, which is a Coliseum, stadium-type atmosphere, goes all around.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, they're hosting an MLB game a month and a half from now.
Go Braves. Yeah, the construction's begun. They're tearing down the Goodyear building in the infield at Bristol, by the way. Yeah, that's wild to me. Like, you got to tear down a whole building to do it. Is it really worth it? Hey, I don't count the bills. I hope it is there, and I'm sure it'll be exciting. I did get to go to Bristol for the first time back in April, and I went again, or I'm going again, rather, in September, so I don't know that I'm going to the August baseball game up there, even though I absolutely love the Braves and love Bristol and NASCAR. So, all right, now that closes the book on that one. There are a few other headlines real quick. I need to go through the file real quick. Just a couple other things. We mentioned Connor Zillage when Dale Jr. crew chiefing on the number 88 there. The legend of Dale Jr. just continues, right? The cult, the zeitgeist, the aura of Dale Jr., as Devin would say, just continues. I don't know what else there is to say about that. Just real quickly, like a sentence or two for both of you. What did you think about Jr. getting the trophy there? I know we mentioned it briefly a moment ago when Connor Zillage won, but I mean, Was this significant to you at all, or did it make you roll your eyes, or Devin?
I didn't really think too much of it, honestly.
Okay.
I think more of Connor Zilish than I do of Dale Earnhardt Jr. in this situation. And that's not a diss at Jr. or anything, but that's just what I take away from it.
I think it makes him completely different than any other major team owner. I know there are other team owners like Mario Goslin and the DGM team where they get up on the pit box, and others have done it. But it makes him really a unique owner that he would actually accept doing it, open himself up to the criticism. But I think there's far more to gain from it, just because anything he touches, it seems like just about, sorry about that sound, just about turns to gold. Dan, as a crew member, all right, as a former crew chief, if you will, what did you think about Junior Nation, Dale's boy, getting on the pit box?
I think it is. It would definitely be an honor and a privilege to be able to command the respect and all the things that are. He has such favor on him right now that what can you say? Because I can sit here and say no, I don't like it, but my God, everybody envies that position.
Yeah,
everybody envies the fact that he is Dale Sr.'s son. That he's going to be a billionaire before I leave this planet. I know, and he is going to achieve all of these accolades and all of this success. And I can't say anything bad about him. I mean, what are you going to say? Because I'm proud for him, and I wish it was me, but it's not. And he has such favor on him that anything he does, anything he says, it's all over the internet. It's all over everything. So why not?
I agree. I would generally agree with that. And
I don't know that there's anything that you could say bad about him and live to the next day. I think you would be crucified, condemned, and hung from the nearest yard arm if you said anything. But how fortunate he is, how fortunate this man is to be able to live this and be able to do this while he is still on this planet.
Yeah, that's great. That I think he's getting to pay forward that big image in a way differently than his dad did. His dad did it mostly on the racetrack and with the souvenir sales and crafting an image. Dale Jr.'s done it with media, right? With media and with an openness to vulnerability that was not endemic of Dale Sr.'s generation and certainly Dale Sr.'s image. And that openness to vulnerability, I think, really strikes a chord with people and just sitting down and making himself so available, I think is really big. He's not untouchable. Dale Sr. seemed untouchable, like he's like a ghost almost. Dale Jr. Is down to earth in a different way than Dale Sr. was, I guess. It's very, very interesting to me.
He's down to earth, but we need to have a conversation at some point in time about about what's been done on the Dale Sr. story and so forth, and what I feel, because there's nothing bad about that whatsoever, but there's a lot of things that really do come to that come to my memory, that come to me about all of the families of that era that came through that I didn't personally know, but I knew them, and I knew enough about the situations going on that I'd love to get into this conversation in a little bit deeper light, and be able to talk about this, because it does open up a lot of things. And I've always said that the women that came through NASCAR were tougher than the men.
Well, no doubt, and there's a lot of that in that story too. Hey, the next Cup Series off week, we're going to do a deep dive on the Earnhardt documentary. And I'm saying that to make fun of the Cup Series having no off weeks between now and the rest of the season. So we'll carve out some time here. If we have more time today, I would say do it now, since Prime's time covering NASCAR is over for the season. We've talked a lot about the Prime coverage, especially after the Coca-Cola 600 for the first week. Check that out a few weeks ago on the here on the 5
But Doug,
podcast
probably
page.
not a lot of people not a total number of people have seen this documentary yet,
Yeah.
and I think putting it off a little bit later would give you an opportunity to look at that, because
Yeah.
there are things about that I would love to share.
Yeah, please do. I want to hear that. Absolutely. Maybe around that July Daytona race, huh? Let's
Either
circle
that,
that
or
because there's so much
either that, or a
legendary.
little bit further, because like I said, give people an opportunity
Yeah.
to see this
Oh, it has been
and
July.
reflect on it, because you really do have to reflect on it, and you really do have to think about some of the things that are said and done, and also too, you have to think about the era that
Mm-hmm.
was in.
Well, no doubt. No
No
doubt. That's
doubt.
a great point. Yeah, we'll get into that soon. It's incredible, the Earnhardt documentary on Prime. Prime, I think we all agree, did a tremendous job covering these 5 races here. Up next is the TNT Max crew, which is going to have Adam Alexander and Steve Letarte. And is Dale Jr. Dale Jr.'s in the booth on these, right? So it's the same booth, just a little bit different components there. And I would expect, with all the ballyhoo and all of the momentum that Prime had, all of the positivity, that TNT is going to have some things up their sleeves too. They're not just going to go do the same TNT thing that we've seen over the years. So we'll be staying tuned for that. A couple of other quick headlines here. We're going racing and road course in the Truck Series this weekend, and I'm going to go over the entry list here. Devin's going to get raptured into heaven by the time I'm done reading those, okay, because, my gosh, there's all sorts of changes. But I like to point out the different drivers that are showing up, but also some other extended deals too, okay? So, for instance, Kaz Gralla is joining Sam Hunt Racing for all of their road course races for the rest of the Xfinity Series in their secondary vehicle, the number 24, and that'll start in Chicago. Josh Bilicki is going to be in the number 44 Nice Motorsports truck that we've seen Ross Chastain run some this year. Bailey Curry's running it a bunch. Josh Bilicki is going to be in the Lime Rock Park race in the number 44 Nice truck. He'll also run the Roval, and that's big. Josh Bilicki's from Wisconsin, big-time road racing background. And Cam Waters is going to come over for V8 Supercars and return to the Truck Series with Thor Sport Racing running again, as he did last year, the number 66 truck at Lime Rock Park. And then, like I mentioned, TNT and Max are going to be on. I believe qualifying is going to be on True TV, not on Prime. That's a little bit of a difference. Okay? Did I get that right, Devin, about the qualifying?
Yeah, it's going to be on True TV.
True TV. So, yeah, that's a change, too.
And that's the rest of the way, too.
The rest of the way. Okay, that's big. Okay, I forgot about that. So we're now to the point where Prime is handing the baton over to True TV. So you have to either have that channel on cable, or if you're like me, I have Fubo. That does not have the TNT Max suite on it, if you will. It doesn't have TNT, TBS, and so forth. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do the rest of this race.
It's also streaming on. If you have Max, it's also streaming on Max as well.
That's what I meant, the TNT Max suite. So if you have Max as a streaming subscription, or if your cable unit has the TNT, TBS, True TV channels, you're going to be set for these 5 races, and then for qualifying-wise the rest of the year. Thank you for clarifying that, Dev. That's big in the headlines there. Now, going into Atlanta Motor Speedway and Lime Rock, I'm going to get through the entry list, then we're going to talk about the race weekend and preview it real fast. So we're going to have all 40 spots filled in the Cup race this weekend, unless there's something weird that happens. No one's going home, right? You're going to have Corey LaJoie returning to the track for the first time since Bristol. Will be in the Rick Ware 01. David Starr is going to be driving Carl Long's Garage 66 Ford. BJ McLeod's going to be driving his own number 78, BJ McLeod Motorsports. And who am I missing, Devin?
Dan
young up-and-comer, young whippersnapper.
Connor Zilish.
Boom. Zilich, by the way. Zilich. Which I called him wrong forever. He corrected me one time. He's in the number 87 Red Bull Chevrolet, a 4th Trackhouse car. Now, and then for the Xfinity Series, let me toggle over to that real fast. And by real fast, I mean not super fast. 1 second. The Xfinity Series, of course, there's a lot more turnover each week. Just a few of the different names that you're going to see there include Nick Lights in the SS Greenlight 07. Garrett Smithley returns to SS Greenlight Racing. He's had a couple races off with sponsorship deals in the 14. Eric Almirola will be in the number 19 for Joe Gibbs. You know how well he contributes a lot. Christopher Bell said Eric Almirola's addition to Joe Gibbs Racing helped his game on the Super Speedway drafting races there when Bell won the Cup race in Atlanta. So Eric Almirola in the 19. Dr. Patrick Staropoli, the Harvard-trained doctor, will be in the number 24 for Sam Hunt Racing. Catherine Legg will be in the 32 for Jordan Anderson Racing. Joey Gase is going to campaign the number 35, his own vehicle, number 35. And the 45 will have Georgia's Mason Massey. The other Gase entry, number 53, will be Mason Maggio. Leland Honeyman Jr. will be in the 70 car that he splits this year with Thomas Annunziata. And C.J. McLaughlin will be in the DGM Racing number 91 there. There are 38 Xfinity cars, so no one's going to miss the show. So there won't be, barring something unforeseen, any major qualifying drama in Atlanta. Now, that could change later in the season, especially if we have a few more cars show up and those charters end up not panning out for the teams that are suing NASCAR. We know what we're talking about there. Real quick, hold on. I just need to get this page out of my way. Lime Rock Park, they're going to race Saturday in the Leuna 250. And looking at that entry list, yeah, that's a little more lit. Hold on. Sorry, I got only one monitor today. So there are 35 teams for 36 spots, so no one's going home. Brent Cruz will be in the number 1. That's for Tricon Garage. Brent Cruz, that really big up-and-comer in the Toyota Race and Development deal. William Lambros. I know nothing about William Lambros, but he'll be in the Josh Rayun brothers, the Rayun brothers number 2. Thomas Annunziata is going to make, I don't know if it's his truck debut, but he's going to be getting a big-time opportunity. Annunziata is the Trans Am driver, only 19 years old, for Spire Motorsports at the 07. Did you guys hear who Spire is going to put in their number 7? Did y'all see the announcement?
No.
Rodney Sandstorm, Jordan Taylor, the big IMSA standout who filled in for Chase Elliott at COTA 2 years ago. He'll be in the 7. Dale Quarterly.
Glasses guy.
Huh?
The glasses guy. I just remember his glasses.
That's it. That's really all he's done. He certainly hasn't done anything behind the wheel of a car worth noting. He just wears glasses. That's it. He at Parker.
Get him a glasses sponsorship.
You're a nut, man. You're a nut. And then Wesley Slimp. That is not anywhere near all the changes, but he'll be in the number 62 truck. Dale Quarterly in the 32. I'm just scanning down the list here. Young's Motorsports hasn't announced their driver yet. I'm pregnant with anticipation about who that is. The 22 for Rayun Brothers. Shoot, I just saw it on J-Ski. Someone's making their debut at trucks in the 22. Oh, gosh, I got to go back and look. Darn it. Okay, sorry. We may not get to that one here. Josh Balicki, I mentioned, in the 44. Cam Waters in the 66. And that's it for the other extras there. And I mentioned the others, so... Wesley Slimp will be in the 62 truck as a teammate to Stuart Friesen. So if anybody's got money on Wesley Slimp, let me know. All right, let me know. Weekend schedule for trucks, they're racing Saturday at 1. You can look up online where they're going. Now, here we go, AMS, all right? I'm going to skip ahead to Friday.
EPS.
Yeah, EPS.
Oh. You know what? Is it going to happen again? No, okay, no, it's not. Okay. Yes, Echo Park Speedway. Skip it ahead to Friday here. Okay, so 7:30 in the morning, Friday the 27th, Raceway Ministries is presenting the NASCAR Cup Series Hauler Parade. All right, so especially those that are living in South Metro Atlanta or camping at the track, all right? You're probably not driving a long way just to see the haulers, but if you are, it's at 7:30 a.m., and those will be, they brought in, I don't know if it's through downtown Hampton, but certainly on the access road, the Speedway Boulevard near the racetrack, all right? Now let's get further down the list. The gates open Friday at 2:45. All right, so if you're at the track this early, you got some stuff to do. The gates open at 2:45. Let me go before that. The fan zone opens at 12, and there's an Xfinity Series autograph session. All right, we know a lot of y'all hound them for autographs. You get to meet your Xfinity Series drivers 12:30 in the Echo Park Automotive fan zone. The gates don't open until 2:45. Right after that, Xfinity qualifying is at 3. There's no practice because we're drafting, okay, Super Speedway track. 5:05 is Cup Series qualifying only, no practice. And then 7:30 p.m., the Focused Health 250 Xfinity Series race. That's all Friday, all right, 7:30 p.m. Let's hope they don't make a marathon out of that. And then they expect the race to be over by about 9:30 or so. The Peach Pit Party over there by the Legends Garage in the infield, featuring Tim Duggar, who I believe, Dan, was the best man in your wedding, right? Tim Duggar?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I knew it. I knew it. I'm telling a lot of lies today, just like the Quaker State stuff I said earlier.
Yeah,
So that's
drink
Friday.
some more sanitizer.
Here we go. Just I'm washing my hands of all that. Okay, now to Saturday. Remember, night race Saturday. So you got the morning, but if you're camping out or you're coming down to the track early, free breakfast in the Raceway Ministries tent that is basically in the area in front of the racetrack. All right, kind of near the infamous lake out front, not far from the condo entrances. Okay, it's kind of lined up, sort of longitudinally with the condos, if you will. 8 to 10:30, free breakfast. All right, we're gonna have at 10 a.m. on Saturday. I'll be helping with the Q&A there. We're gonna have Corey LaJoy at 10, yes, at 10, and Michael McDowell at 10:15. All right, so come down, back-to-back drivers, 30 minutes of interviews or so. That only in person. Those are not going to be on 5 to Go's YouTube page or anything. The Fan Zone on Saturday opens at noon, and then we've got a Speedway Children's Charity Track Walk at 12:30. There's a concert, Smokey Jones and the $3 Pistols, that'll perform on the Echo Park fan stage. All right, and more on that stage in a second. The $3 Pistols, Devin. Didn't you used to play bass in the $3 Pistols?
Oh yeah, those are the good old days.
Yeah, just a 4-string, not a 5-string, nothing crazy. Okay. But anyway, that's 2 o'clock. The credentials do not open on race day till 2:30. So if you're going down there, I've already talked to some people about this. If you go down and you're like, man, I'm going to go and make a run of it, you could go to the Fan Zone. But if you haven't gotten your credentials Friday, they don't open till 2:30 on Saturday. Take note, the gates are at 2:30. The pre-race track pass access, that opens at 3:45. There's a concert soon after. I'll tell you about that. Now, outside of the Fan Zone, Kenny Wallace and John Roberts are going to be doing trackside live on the Echo Park Fan Zone stage, as they often do at the Speedway Motorsports tracks, like Echo Park Speedway. That'll be at 4 o'clock Saturday. 5 p.m. is the Jet Black Roses pre-race concert on the front stretch. For those that have the pre-race access, you'll be down on the track. Driver intros for the Quaker State 400 presented by Walmart are at 6:25, and the race Saturday night, all 400 miles of its glory, and praying for great weather, is at 7 p.m. We'll have full racing coverage on Performance Racing Network, the PRN app, your local affiliates, and inside the NASCAR app too. We'll be on, I believe, at 6 p.m. Saturday, and then for the Cups for Friday, by the way, we'll do Cup Series qualifying, take a brief break, like a very brief break, and then go on the air with the Xfinity Series race. It'll actually be a longer broadcast day Friday, potentially, than it could be Saturday, just having all that mushed together. So I know that was a lot of time me talking, guys. I just wanted to break that down for people because, honestly, Dan, I don't know if you're like this when you go to things you're familiar with. You kind of take for granted because it's your home track. Like if you were going to Bristol, you might be more in tune with what's going on. Like with all the schedule, when you go to Atlanta, you're like, I'll just figure it out, But like that's the order of things in Atlanta. They got 3 concerts, trackside live, autograph session. Dan, it's big.
Let me tell you, if you're a fan and you plan on going to any of these events, you do need to go in depth and look at the schedules and figure things out before you get there. It's going to be a whole lot easier on you if you do this and prepare for it than it is if you try to wing it whenever you get there, because you're going to either miss something or you're going to be somewhere, like Michael Waltrip said, you're going to be at the wrong track. So you're not going to make an event that you want to be at that facility. And trust me, a lot of this has changed so much, especially over the 2 decades. But as these tracks and NASCAR changes, all of this stuff does take a right turn, and the things that we used to know and take for granted aren't the same anymore.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, maybe you skipped the February race, right, Devin? And if they had skipped the February race, they would have missed the last race for the next 7 years of it being called Atlanta Motor Speedway, which is the only reason we go. But no, but real, you never know what you're going to see. Christopher Bell won the first of his 3 races in a row, right? You never know what you're going to see. Carson Hocevar lit a fuse on what has been a big old piece of dynamite this season, and how he drove people, right? So it's big. Devin, you go down to each Atlanta race. If somebody hasn't been, and we're going to preview some stats and on-track stuff in a second, but if somebody hasn't been, is there a fundamental difference to you between the summer race, which we've seen in September, July, and June in recent years, versus going in the spring? Is it at night? Is there something about it to you? Is there anything about it? And I didn't prep you with this, so I don't know.
I think the winter, each race is unique on its own. The winter race, or the spring or winter race, whatever you want to call it, the Embedded Health 400 is a little bit of a bigger deal due to the fact that it's right after the Daytona 500. It's an early season race. Quaker State 400 available at Walmart. It's also it's a unique track. It's in the middle of summer. It's that one drafting style track that you get during the summertime of the month. So if you've got the itch to go do it, because that's the only one we have until late August, because the regular season's ending, in-season tournaments beginning this weekend. So there's a lot of different things. There's just a different aspect to the summer race.
Yeah. And last year it led off the playoffs. I feel like that elevated it to equality, if you will, from the race that was the follower-up to the Daytona 500. That being the playoffs. This does set off the in-season tournament, so that is interesting. They gave Atlanta that date. I am glad it's at night. I think it being a night race on a Saturday night, which it may not be great for TV, but it's great for the industry because it basically gives the industry Sunday. And it gives the race fans a chance to get back home. And also, God forbid there's any weather, it gives you a buffer day instead of this stretch that they've had where this wasn't supposed to be a Mexico City race 2 weeks ago. That probably was supposed to be in Canada, given they did Michigan before and Pocono after. This gives them a 4-hour drive or 5-hour, depending on where, from Charlotte, get back home. And you may be sitting there going, cry me a river, you're working and racing, get over it. No, man, it's a grind to do that schedule. Dan knows it's a grind to do that schedule. It's a grind even going to a few races a year, but certainly to do the whole thing, and anything you can buy back is good. All right, Atlanta's going to be electric. It's the first race of the Echo Park Speedway era. 7 years from now, we'll just go back to being Atlanta. We don't know, but that's something new. I just feel like there's an energy about it, and just the people I talk to. So that's big. Now, before we close up, let's talk about drivers. Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell was the winner of the February race in Atlanta. I'm just stroking here for a minute. Joey Logano, that's what it is. Joey Logano won the race back last September under similar conditions. Probably won't be quite as hot, but Joey Logano won that post-Labor Day race there at Atlanta back in last September. Excuse me. All right, the last 7 races of the Gen 7 era. Can you believe this will be the 8th Gen 7 car race? The 8th race already on this profile at Atlanta. 2022, 23, 24. Second race of 25. That's 8 races, all right? Who is the driver with the most points in 7 races on the reconfigured Atlanta Motor Speedway? And I'll give you a hint. They haven't won.
Chase Elliott.
Chase Elliott
missed one of those races. And he has a win. He won the first race on the new configuration.
You talking about hasn't won this season or hasn't won overall since the reconfiguration?
What's that?
Are you saying the driver hasn't won at this track at all since the reconfiguration, or not
just
this
in the
season?
7 races?
Okay.
So Chase Elliott, he won the second race on the new config, and he missed a race, so that knocked him down the points. Remember, with his broken leg, 2023.
What about Blaney?
Bing, bing, ding, ding, ding. There you go. One for the Blue Ovals there. Ryan Blaney, 6 top 10s in 7 races, average finish of 6.7. But remember, all those stage points, all those laps he leads, right? He no wins, but he actually he's led 107 laps over those 7 races, and he has 301 points to the second place driver's 229. Who is second on that list? They have no wins, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, but they have led the second most laps in the Gen 7 era at EPS. And I'll give you a hint. They were a rookie coming off of their first career win when the first the EPS race happen on the steep banks?
Austin Cindric.
Bingo. I was about to say the blue deuce, but it's not. It's usually the white deuce or the neon yellow deuce. Yes, that's Austin Cindric. Third most points. Has a win. Only 31 laps led. Average finish of 11th. Also has got a runner-up finish or two there.
That's Chase Elliott.
Loves the sponsor of this race.
Oh, Daniel Suarez.
Daniel Suarez, all right. Daniel Suarez. And he's got a lot of Daniels amigos there in that crowd. Came close to winning back in the playoffs, wasn't it? Last year, I think he crashed in the spring, or the February race, but in the playoffs he came pretty close to winning. Joey Logano has had 2 wins on the new configuration, and he has got the 4th most points. William Byron has 2 wins, including the very first one, I believe, on the new configuration. He's 5th most. Then it's Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, and remember I mentioned Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 10th highest performing drivers in the Gen 7 car era. Now, for the Xfinity Series, we're not going to a big, deep depth preview, and I feel bad. I didn't do any digging in on that race. The Xfinity race was kind of crazy last week and certainly got a little heated there in Mexico, too. Would you like to take a stab at Austin Hill's record in the Xfinity Series there, Dan? Austin Hill. We know he loves drafting races.
No, and he's done extremely well, but I have no idea.
Austin Hill in 7 races for the Xfinity Series at Atlanta. Devin, were you about to say it, Super Racing Fanalist?
What is he, 5-2?
I think he's 6-1. Let me just make sure. I looked it up before the show, but now I don't want to disservice anybody listening here. Hold on. Just give me 1 second. This is probably the best way to do it. Limit it to... Yeah, okay, so here we go. Austin Hill, 5 of the last 6. 5 of the last 6. And top 5s in the others, all right? 5 of the last 6. Isn't that crazy?
It'd be hard to bet against him, wouldn't it?
No doubt. No doubt. And it was the Bennett race last year, winning in the Bennett car. Big time. Yep. And actually, it's not Bennett this year. I just noticed that.
Right? It was in the spring.
It was in the spring. That's what it was. I was like, yeah, they couldn't have dropped that. That's too easy. Okay, yeah. It was Bennett back last September, Bennett in the spring. So looking at Atlanta, there's no excuse not to know what's going on. All right? You got fantasy picks to make, in-season tournament picks to make, and you know there's a randomness to it. But what did we say about this race, guys? Or what did I said it, and I feel like y'all agree with me. After that Atlanta race, despite the weird finish, right, we got upset about the finish in February because they threw out the yellow flag and all that. It might be the best race on the circuit right now. It's got a mixture of the hype of Daytona and Talladega, but some of the finesse of other mile-and-a-halves. And there's a randomness but a predictability all mixed in.
Do you think we could see potentially what we see on Saturday? Could it become the new Summer Classic in NASCAR?
Could it become the new Summer Classic in NASCAR? I would love for them to stick with a legacy date for this second date. It's floated around a little bit, and it's had to make the schedule work. Could EPS, there I go, do it again, be a legacy date? I don't know. That's a great point. All right, well, we've covered a lot today. We previewed the weekend, and we're going to have a lot more to bring to the table this coming week, having boots on the ground at the racetrack, all right? So we talked about Pocono, the big win for Chase Briscoe, the fuel saving, how drivers used to do it differently. Just go hard all the time, right? We talked, of course, about San Diego, the in-season tournament, the future of stadium and street racing in general. And we, of course, talked about Echo Park Speedway and Dale Jr. on the pit box. So now we get to our final thoughts here, episode 319. Dan, you've had weeks to think about it.
I've had weeks to think about it. I'm thinking about Atlanta Motor Speedway and how hot it's going to be based on what I see already this week and how it started. And if you want to see a hauler parade, just park yourself anywhere around 285 and sit and watch the hauler parade because it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 285. And I really want to give a shout out to I think there's probably about 6 or 7 million people that live in the metro Atlanta area. And I want to give a shout out to every one of those who visited Dawsonville over the weekend. I think every one of you made it. And I want to thank you for backing traffic up the furthest that I believe. This is a record, I believe. And I'm looking forward to many, many, many months to come of the new records that are going to be broken for people visiting or moving into this area.
New head of the Dawsonville Chamber of Commerce, Dan Elliott, with his take.
And I'll be there with Krispy Kreme donuts and coffee for everyone.
Oh, my gosh. That's fantastic. What a way to spend that one, Dan. Yeah, it's no doubt Dawsonville it's a great place to be. August 2nd, Georgia Racing Hall of Fame inductions, including Big Mike Helton there, and I'll get to help out.
You better leave on August the 1st if you're going to be here by August the 2nd.
Oh,
and
my
you better
gosh.
go ahead and get your reservations, because I would dare to say that the reservations, that all of the motels are already full.
Let's just hope all the tables are full inside of the Dawsonville City Hall there, where the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame is located. Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. That's you win. Show's over. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Dev, final thoughts for you, man. I know it's a big weekend for you and your family coming down to the track.
Yeah, it is. Looking forward to it. And to add on to Dan's thought there about watching the hauler parade on 285, it's not just any hauler parade. That's hauler parade with thrill, because you actually get to race with the haulers on 285.
Don't race. You're not racing them. You are participating in a commute with them.
Well, shoot, I mean, if they're passing you on the right lane, there's something going on.
No racing allowed. Yellow flag, okay? Traffic guy here. Gridlock guy here. Hey, and I'll say this, I'm pumped about Atlanta. I'm maybe running on fumes Friday because I got to work, like 4 to noon or something Friday, and then basically turn around and head to the track after that. But I'm really pumped about it, and I'm excited to start the Channel 11 journey here. I've already, talked enough about that. I'll still be writing in the AJC Gridlock guy column there, and still doing 5 to go. So God has blessed me tremendously with people in my life like you two and those of you listening, and my wife Momo, our families and everything. So I'm just really happy, pumped, and blessed, and ready to dig hard with you guys and find some new rocks and things to lift up. I do want to mention again one more time, full Noah Gregson interview coming, audio only, so that's going to be just on the podcast. All right, Noah. Actually, we have a good laugh about cool suits. And, because remember, he was famous for walking down pit road and having his chest hair hanging out. And when he started wearing a cool suit, we talk about the new sponsor in his car, or a sponsor in his car at Atlanta, and how they use it in the shop, and him helping repair his Mexico City car. Daniel Suarez, that interview's up. And I haven't thought about what I'm going to talk to Ross Chastain about yet, but I'm sure at some point Carson Hocevar has to come up, just because the last time I talked to him, it did too. Okay, so there you go. But we look forward to all you tuning in. If you see us at the racetrack or hear something that sounds like mine or Devin's voice, go up and call us Doug or Devin, and you might be right. And you might be wrong. No, but if you see us at the track, say hello. If we see you, we're definitely going to say hello to you, all right? So you're listening now. I know exactly what you look like. YouTube takes all your data, sends it to us. No, they probably do, but I don't know how to access it. No. So anyway, thank you for listening in. Dan, continued recoveries to you, and Lolly both. I know she's had a tough time of it this summer. Devin, to you too. Blessed to be with both of you. Devin Kupka, Roving Racing Journo. Dan Elliott, championship-winning mechanic, grinding those gears, working on those transmissions at Dawsonville's. I'm Doug Turnbull, AJC and 11 Alive. Have a great weekend. We hope to see you at the track. Thanks for listening to the 5 to Go podcast.